guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. Today's episode is all about what happens if you fail your medical billing and coding exam. Where do you go from here? If you are brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue, I'm a medical coder. I have been a medical coder for over 10 years. I created my channel with the hope of sharing all the things that I know with all of you. So if you want more of this content, I hope you'll hit that subscribe button, like, and share. So let's get started. All right. This is probably one of the worst feelings that you could ever have as a student, right? Is that you fail your examination for medical billing and coding. Now what? What do you do? Do you continue to try? Do you just keep going on? What? Do you give up? Here's the thing, and I will say this disclaimer first, okay? Disclaimer always. This is my opinion. This is just my advice, because I know that as adults, it is very easy to just sort of think, well, maybe this wasn't for me, and maybe I should just give it up. And it's really difficult if you're not surrounded by other medical coders or anybody else in the health information management field to sort of guide you, and so that way you sort of know what decision to make. Well, whatever decision you decide to make, whether you decide to take the test again, or whether you decide to just go ahead and give it up, is entirely up to you. Do whatever is good for you, whatever you do, okay? So, but I just hope that you'll hear this message today. If you are just sort of stuck in like, what do I do now? I failed my test and I don't know if I want to take it again. Of course, right now, you're not going to know if you want to take it again, because you feel like, gosh, really? I didn't pass. I did all that studying and I didn't pass. Here's the thing. What happens with test takers is that we sort of sometimes let those nerves take over. And there's a lot of variables that go into it. If you have so much nervous energy, it can lock up your brain and you can be like, oh my gosh, now I can't think and I don't remember and I'm confused. Here's the thing. If you decide to go ahead and retake this test again, that's great. And I will say good, because one knockdown should not take you out. You should have the guts to say, okay, you know what? I'm going to try this again, but I'm going to study even harder and I'm going to do even better the next time. The good thing is you'll know what to expect because you've already taken the test, right? And then you'll know what areas to really concentrate on studying, because usually when you're taking your certification exam, they will let you know what your scoring was in each of the areas, right? So if they do that for you, at least you'll know, okay, well, I know I need to study on this part, or I know I need to study on this part, or you'll know what you did wrong as well. So sometimes people will run out of time. That is like one of the number one things that I hear is, I ran out of time. I was just reading and then I got caught up and I started second guessing myself. That's number two. They started second guessing themselves. And then they'll say, well, I just felt confused because there's just so much information and I didn't go over any of this from the practice exam books. The thing about the practice exam books is they're not designed to be the questions that are on the test. They're designed to sort of get you in that mode, in that testing mode. No association would ever publish a book with the questions in it already, because they have to be able to test people, and they're not going to test people on stuff that they're going to find out from a book, right? So that's why you just have to use those books as a way to practice with. Now, you really have to start off with, okay, you're going to go ahead and take this again, set a schedule. If you failed it, then you need to give yourself time to restudy and make sure that you can go over all the areas that you think. Don't be in a rush to go back, but don't take too long either. So if you want to take 4 or 5 months to retake your test again, that's perfectly fine, I think, because that is still within a short amount of time, but it's not too long and it's not too fast either. Because if you wait a month, yeah, you may be able to be in it, but if you need more time to study, if you need to work on your speed, that time will help you, okay? Now, that just 4 or 5 months is just a suggestion. If you want to do 3 months or 2 months, hey, it's your show. I'm just saying, okay? Whatever you feel most comfortable with. Number one, make sure you have the correct books. Okay, that's going to be number two. So you may have to get a new set of books. I'm just saying. But work on getting a date, right? Set a date for yourself and then be like, okay, I'm going to take it at this time. Look at everything that you know you missed, or if it is a like getting through and reading issue, then you know you need to work on your speed. So then you're going to take that time and you're going to say, okay, this week I'm going to do this. This week I'm going to do this. This week I'm going to do this. You have to start setting a schedule because this is attainable. This medical coding, medical billing and coding credential, whether you're going with the American Health Information Management Association or the American Academy of Professional Coders, is attainable. But you have to work for it. And sometimes I don't know if people just think that when they're in these programs that, oh, it's going to be easy to take the certification exam. It's not. And if you think about it, medical billers and coders are trained with a very short window of time. And to be trained in a very short window of time, and it is a very difficult test. Think about other professions. Think about attorneys, right? I'm always going to go back to attorneys because that's what I wanted to be when I was a kid. Attorneys get 3 years. Right? They get all their time in school, but law school is 3 years. So they get all this time to study and learn about the law and learn everything that they need to learn. Well, then they go and they sit for the bar exam. Do you know many lawyers have to take the bar exam multiple times in order to pass it because it is a lot and they have 3 years. So think about this. We are in the medical field, going in the medical field, and we have like programs that are running like 9 months or 12 months or 18 months. And if you are in a very accelerated program, that's part of the thing right there too, is if you're in a accelerated program, the chances of passing a test, you have to either really be into it or you have to have had some prior experience in medical in order to get through those accelerated programs and expect to pass a certification exam. Because if you are starting brand new with no previous experience and background in medical, which I did, I started with no previous experience in medical and background, right? At all. Medical and background. I had none. But I was very determined and I'm a nerd. So because of this, I was able to get through it. And I had a really great support system. I had my mom and she helped me. She did flashcards with me and she read with me and we did all those things. And I owe my career to my mom. So because I had this wonderful support system, that is what helped me. Being a reader helped me. So if you have these things, then you need to get on it and start studying, because getting into studying and making sure that this second time around, I'm going to do this. I'm going to rock this test. I'm going to make sure that I pass. And yes, is it going to be a little bit more? If you are with AAPC, well, of course you get the free retake with the CPC. But with AHIMA, of course, you'd have to pay again to take the exam. That's okay. If you have to pay again to take the exam, it's all right. It's an investment in your future, and you just have a little bit more skin in the game. That's all it is. There's nothing wrong with it. There are people who have been in the health information management industry, and they really love what they do. But some had to take their certification exam a few times, not just once or twice. Some had to take it 3 times, 4 times, and they finally got it because they were determined. But it's having that determination and not giving up after losing the first round. Okay, don't give up, because you spent all that time. And if you got like accelerated training and then you're thinking, well, if I had just had a little bit more time, now is your second chance to get that more time. This career field in health information management is a wonderful field, and it is worth all the tears and the sweat that you're going to put into it. But there is a little bit of sweat equity in the beginning, right? That you have to really buckle down and be serious about your studies. There's people that are not serious, and I'm going to be honest with you. I've seen it where people are just like, oh yeah, I'll just breeze through this program, and I made it through all these quizzes and things like that, so I should be fine. And then when they don't pass because they didn't take it seriously, they're like, oh, well, wait a second. You know, why didn't I pass? You know, I should have passed. The onus, of course, is always going to be on us, right? Because we're actually the ones sitting there in the testing seat taking the exam. So you really do have to look long and hard at yourself and be like, okay, I know that I need to do a little bit more studying. Or if I have been doing studying and I don't understand, I need to reach out. There's so many coders that are even in the industry now that have their certification that don't understand something, and then they don't reach out. And then they wonder why they don't understand. If you're not reaching out for help when you know you need it, that's the problem right there. So do the best that you can to look for alternative resources. There are lots of videos on YouTube. Although I will say this, you have to make sure that you're paying attention to the reasons that, you know, whatever codes that the people get, you need to make sure that you verify for yourself that those are the codes. Because sometimes when people are looking at things, you know, people have different interpretations, but you yourself have to understand, how did they come up with that answer if they're not explaining it? And you got to look for yourself. So that's all part of being a coder. That's just your first taste, right? Of hearing somebody else's codes and being like, okay, verifying for yourself if those are the right codes, and verifying why, or trying to figure out why those codes are correct. So that is your first taste because it's going to keep on. When you are in the industry and you're out in the real world of medical coding and you start working with these doctors' charts and looking at all these diagnoses that they're selecting, it doesn't mean that if the doctor selected this diagnosis, that that's necessarily the correct diagnosis or the correct procedure, because providers are not meant to be medical coders. That's our job. So learning how to do that research now, and especially if you have failed your exam, this is a really good time to start getting honed up on those skills, because it's going to help you in the long run. But all I can tell you guys is this: please don't give up if you've had this one failure, because I've seen so many talented people that they fail the test and then they never take it again. And they say, well, I'm just going to give up on being a medical coder. And when I think about like the potential that they could have had they just stuck with it and not given up and not let one thing like that stop them, what a great career they could have had. Of course, that's just me in my mind, what I can see in people, right? Because you can tell the people who would have really loved it. And then, of course, you see those people that they get their credential and then they're out applying for jobs. And then just because they don't hear back after applying at a few places, then they give up. Again, loss of really good potential, and sort of accepting defeat in that, and that they couldn't find it. But if you start to really push and you start to apply everywhere, like I always recommend that you guys do, apply everywhere, so that way eventually somebody will let you in. You know, and getting creative in how you are approaching your job search, okay? And it is the same thing with studying. And I know I talk a lot about studying, especially when you're taking your certification exam. But if you know what you did and you know how you studied before, then you need to change your approach on how you study. If you felt like you were cramming, right? Don't do that. That is the number one way to really mess yourself up, is to cram. You know this stuff. It is a matter of exercising it and putting it into action when you're taking the certification exam. So the only way you're able to do this is if you relax enough to get yourself to be like, okay, I know this, I know this, I know this. And I'm going to sit here for a half an hour at a time, and I'm going to see how many of these diagnoses I can get corrected by coding it and looking it up in the book. How many can I get correct? Can I get to 10 in this half hour? Can I get to 10 diagnoses in this half hour? Can I get to 20 in this half hour? That's fast, but it is about working on your speed, getting familiar with your books, and knowing where you went wrong. If you know you went wrong in the coding part, get workbooks. I'm going to leave a link for a workbook, okay, that I recommend. And it has like odd number answers. So that way you guys can practice with those kinds of things, okay? I mean, look into those. The practice exam books are meant to give you a mock exam. Give yourself that however long that test is for whatever certification you're sitting for from AHIMA or AAPC, and give yourself that same amount of time. So that way you can see where you're getting hung up. And always go with your first instinct when it comes to what diagnosis you're going to select or what procedure you're going to select. Because if you take too much time dawdling back and forth, that is it is a vampire effect on the time, because it's just literally sucking the time away from you that you could be just getting through and being efficient at getting through. Because you're going to have this sort of hectic pace from time to time when you are working, because there's going to be deadlines that have to be met. There's going to be, records that are going to have to be coded in a timely manner because of insurance or because of a deadline. So keep this in mind. This is going to be a part of reality. So get used to this feeling now. But training yourself, it is just like working out. I mean, you have to give yourself time to build up. You're not going to know all of this stuff overnight either. So be patient with yourself in that. But again, look for alternatives on how to start getting better as a medical coder, so that when you do get started as a medical coder, you're going to be ready. And not only that, you're going to be more than ready when you begin as a medical coder. But again, this is something that happens. It happens to a lot of people. It has nothing to do with, oh, well, I'm not smart enough. It has nothing to do with that. And don't ever think that of yourself. When I hear people say that about themselves, it's heartbreaking, because you should have more support around you than that. You know, think about that. You are just as worthy to have a great career as anybody else. And the only way you're going to get things is if you want it. Most of all, if you want it, and you have to go after it, and go after it in full force, because no one else is going to do that for you. And it's never going to be handed to you. This career is not handed to people at all. And if it is, then they're very lucky. But it's going to be very few and far in between, you know. And it is all about, putting yourself out there as far as like, okay, I'm really going to buckle down now. But that is my advice. And think about this. If you failed, the world didn't end, right? And you're still standing. So get up, dust yourself off, and keep going. And yes, I know, before anybody says, it's really easy for you, Blue. It's really easy for you to say that. Maybe so. But I know that this happens. Okay? And we all have had our disappointments in academics. We all have. But at the same time, it's important to shake it off and really apply yourself. Okay, I'm going to take this dive this time, but I'm going to keep going. I'm going to get right back up, and I'm going to get out there, because yes, you can. Whatever you think at the end of the day, yes, you can. And to round this out, stay out of the negative Facebook medical coding groups, whatever you do. And if you failed your test, don't go running and telling everybody that you failed your test. That's your business. It's on you. You can do it. You can pass that test, but you don't need to go announce it to everybody or try to make other people feel like they can't pass it. Just so you know, other people have different things going on. You have to concentrate on you. And that is my biggest advice. So concentrate on you and concentrate on your goal to get this certification so that you can start your career. But if it's just a little bit more, it's just going to be a little bit more, and that's all. But when you get into it, like I said, I mean, you've seen my videos, hopefully. It's a wonderful career, and it's something that I would never change in my life. I'm just saying. But if you want more quizzes and more things, I do have my Quiz Friday page on Quiz Friday playlist on YouTube, and I did scenarios and things, and then I would do Answer Monday, and I have the Answer Monday episodes that correspond with that Quiz Friday episode attached at the end, so that way you can watch those videos if you like. I do have a Patreon channel where I have like all kinds of exercises on anatomy, physiology, medical terminology, and the coding. So if you're interested in that, I will leave the link for my Patreon down in the description box below. So I'm going to wrap this one up. And I wish you guys the best when it comes to your test taking. Remember to always just relax. It's going to be your time to shine. You can do this. You got this. And always go with your first instinct. Okay? Study hard because you're going to have to continue to study. I'm just saying. All right. So if you're a medical coder, a medical coding student, somebody curious about the fascinating world of medical coding, a provider, or a nurse, I invite you to like and subscribe and follow me on my journey in medical coding. I will see y'all next time. Bye.